Hey, good morning, everyone. Josh of Severe Weather. Happy weekend to you. Hope you guys have had a great holiday so far. We're going to talk about Beryl and where she is going and what changes have been made to the forecast as we are now approaching a couple of days from landfall on the Texas coast. So, thank you so much for joining me today. It is time to prepare. Today is the day we need to be preparing here in Texas for a hurricane strike from Beryl. Now, the storm has weakened, fortunately. However, I don't think that trend for weakening is going to continue much longer. We are going to see a more favorable environment for Beryl to intensify, and you can see the official track brings it to the middle coast of Texas as a hurricane, stronger Category 1 storm, although there are still some adjustments that can be made. That landfall is going to be sometime during the middle of the day on Monday. However, if it goes further up the coast, that landfall could be later in the day Monday, meaning more time over water. Still a chance this could bend back to the left, maybe towards Corpus Christi or farther south towards Padre Island or even South Padre Island. And the time frame on that could be a little bit earlier on Monday. The more time the system gets to reorganize over water, the better chance it has to be a stronger storm when it comes inland. So right now we do have a hurricane watch for the northeastern portion of Mexico, for the entire Texas coast, all the way up to just southwest of Galveston Bay. So about 350 miles of coastline are in a hurricane watch. As we get to later tonight, first thing tomorrow, we are probably going to see upgrades to warnings here. Hurricane warnings, more than likely across this portion of Texas, maybe a hurricane watch and tropical storm warning for the upper coast. Mexico, I don't think this is going to directly impact you. We've seen an adjustment where the models have been a little farther, too far to the south and west. They should start to trend more to the right here and eliminate the immediate threat to Mexico. Now, Beryl does not look like she did a day ago coming into the Yucatan. She's had a pretty rough night. Several reasons for that. I'm going to show you the water vapor right now, and let me pull out my pen and kind of annotate what's going on here. So we do have some dry air that is filtering into the core of Beryl this morning. That actually started last night. We also have some cooler waters just to the north of the Yucatan, and we've got a little bit of wind shear as well from the south and west. All of these have led to a difficult time for Beryl, and she weakened some as a result. Now, as time wears on, we are going to see Beryl tracking into a favorable area for strengthening where water temperatures here off the coast of Texas are running much warmer. Wind shear is expected to weaken, and the dry air that's getting into the center of the storm will get eventually countered with more moisture here. So, yes, definitely a rough night. Storm looks kind of hungover this morning, as you might expect after a holiday weekend. You can laugh about that. However, all signs point to re-intensification. That trend may begin here later today or tonight. It may hold off till tomorrow morning. But in the last 24 to 36 hours, this storm has a chance of intensifying again, and all the models are showing that happening. This is a look at the visible satellite, and you can see the low-level center is exposed. The center right now is right in here, lacking main thunderstorm activity. However, we do see storms flaring up on the northwestern side of the storm. So yes, it doesn't look great right now. It looks kind of like a hot mess, but we are seeing more of a flare up in storms here. And as these circle back into the center here, we could gradually see some intensification again later today and tonight. But as the storm moves closer to the Texas coastline, it will be in a spot to strengthen and perhaps quickly here in the next couple of days. You can see on the infrared satellite here from cyclonicwx.com, we do see the storms flaring back up, some cooling of the tops here. So under these storms, it's raining incredibly hard. There are gusty winds, but the storms have not concentrated over the center yet. We still have a core, but it is displaced from where it was a day ago when it made landfall into the Yucatan. So a much different looking storm today than what we had yesterday. Here's the water vapor image over the entire Gulf of Mexico. And you can see there's some pretty good outflow here across the entirety of the um, northern Gulf of Mexico. You can see there is growth here on the northern side, so surf will pick up across Louisiana and the upper Texas coast today. But the problem is the southern half of the system has not rounded. It has not come around the circle here to form a more concentrated core in here. So we do have a system that is going to struggle a bit more today, which is good news, but something we still cannot ignore is the threat of warmer water. Now you can see the core of the storm is leaving the coolest waters. There's a shelf of cooler water north of the Yucatan. It is expected to move back into an area where the water temperatures are warmer in here. Typically speaking, we're looking at 30 to 32 degrees Celsius, so between 86 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The warmest waters are in the upper Texas coast and Louisiana coast. I don't think the storm's going to get quite into that area, but you can see the trend will be for warmer waters here over the next 24 to 48 hours. Here is a look at the eventual track. Hurricane hit expected here around lunchtime on Monday, and then a turn to the right. And there's a chance that the Houston area is still going to be in a spot where it gets heavy rain, heavy winds, maybe some very rough surf coming up into the Galveston Bay. The right part of this track does take it up towards Houston, although the official track stays about 50 to 75 miles west of Houston, but the storm will grow. And as a result, Houston will be on what we call the dirty side here. And we could be talking about not just heavy rain and strong winds, but also the threat for tornadoes here in the coming days. The storm will weaken and should start to speed up a little bit as we get to the middle of next week. It should track into the mid-south and eventually get picked up by westerlies and move quickly out of the picture here by the end of next week. You can see the wind field has never been massive with this, but the area in red has had some very intense wind, hurricane force winds. The worst overland were across Grenada and the Grenadines on Monday, then Jamaica on, I believe, Thursday, and then the Yucatan here early in the day yesterday. We are now seeing just tropical storm force winds at this point, moving away from land. However, the threat for these winds to pick up does start to grow as we get to Sunday morning near the Mexico-Texas coastline, and then later in the day tomorrow, Sunday afternoon, maybe as close to Corpus Christi, or starting to get into Corpus Christi, and then tomorrow night into early Monday morning across the middle and upper Texas coast. There's a chance for tropical storm force winds, albeit not a great one for southwestern Louisiana, but for the most part, this is going to be impacting the entire coast of Texas, centered here on Matagorda Bay here late tomorrow night and through the day on Monday. We do have a moderate flash flood risk near and to the east of the center. That does include Houston, but primarily it's to the west of Houston, coming up through College Station and coming up maybe towards Tyler, Texas. There's also a threat for some flooding in parts of deep South Texas, the coastline from Brownsville to Corpus. Right now, it doesn't look like San Antonio is going to get the rain it needs out of the storm. With this adjustment to the right, most of that rain is going to go east of you. Same goes for Dallas-Fort Worth, but it does mean an increase in potential heavy rain across the Arklatex region here by the time we get to Monday night and Tuesday. And if you remember back in the spring, we had quite a bit of rain, quite a bit of flooding, and some of the same places have that risk again. In fact, we could see locally up to a foot of rain from the middle Texas coast inland, all the way up to near College Station, all the way up close to Tyler, Texas here. Houston right now, 6 to 8 inches of rain. Yes, this storm is likely making a landfall close to where Harvey did, but Harvey sat around and circled around the coast for 3 days. This system will be moving. While it will have maybe potentially some damage in same areas that got Harvey, it is not going to cause the kind of flooding that we saw during Harvey. So a much different storm, although impacting a lot of the same areas. Here's a look at aircraft recon, and you can see the pressure is up to 999 millibars. It got as low as 930 during the peak when it was a Category 5 storm on Monday night, early Tuesday morning. The pressure got as high as 1,001 millibars. It is starting to slowly drop again, indicating that the weakening has stopped. But you can see here winds from our hurricane hunters are not even exceeding 65 to 70 miles per hour. Even at flight level, maybe close to hurricane force, but not quite there. So a much different, more ragged looking storm this morning, which is great news. But unfortunately, as I said multiple times, it does have the opportunity to strengthen again here in about 24 to 48 hours. The latest model trends are all in pretty good agreement. This is going to come somewhere near the middle coast of Texas, as far west as Corpus Christi, as far east potentially as Port Lavaca, kind of centered on Port O'Connor. And then we're going to see a bend to the right. And for the most part, everything goes through East Texas, then eventually into Arkansas, and then we have some spread after that. The intensity forecast, again, since the storm has weakened, we are seeing a moderate to high tropical storm over the next 24 to 36 hours, and then strengthening is being shown on all the models, but we are seeing fewer models showing hurricane intensity than before. However, I don't necessarily think that we're out of the woods here for not seeing a stronger hurricane. Category 2, maybe a small chance it gets to even Category 3, but I don't think we're talking about Category 4. If there's anything I've learned here doing this for a long time, it's that storms that are hitting the northern Gulf Coast under favorable conditions like this storm will overachieve. And Beryl has certainly been a great case for that. Let's take a look at the upper level pattern here from the European and what's guiding this storm system. And you can see we've got high pressure aloft here near northern Florida. That has brought the all-time record heat to places like Raleigh yesterday. The airport got to 106. We also have a record high pressure system over California. We had an all-time record in Bakersfield, 124 degrees. So all-time record set yesterday in Raleigh and Bakersfield, but cooling in between the two, and much of the north central U.S. actually a little bit below average due to this strong trough. Now, the storm likes to follow the weakness around high pressure systems. Yes, a couple of days ago, the high pressure system was projected to be a little farther south. It's now kind of retreated to the north and east as this trough is coming in stronger. It's actually kind of a short wave out ahead of the long wave trough, and that is what's allowing the system to make its turn northward. So it has been on the right side of guidance pretty much over the last few days, and will continue that trend. If you take a look here at the moisture profile, you can see that dry air down in here, that brown area that indicates the dry air that is circled into the center from the south and west. The GFS shows it pretty well. And as a result, all the moisture is kind of on the northern side. All of the heavy rain, all of the gustier winds are on the northern side. And that mid-level center here is displaced from the low-level center to the south. Now, we do have this boundary, which is moving through North Texas and the deep south today and over the weekend. That is going to slowly push to the south and east. It will kind of hit the wall here over this ridge, but it is going to add some moisture into the northern side of this system. At the same time, though, it's going to be a fight with the dry air. If you take a look here at tonight, oops, you can still see some dry air wraps in here. Now, interestingly, as the dry air wraps in here, the wind speeds pick up. We have kind of a southerly jet here. And what that's going to do is actually set up on the right front quadrant of our storm, potentially an outbreak of some tornadoes here as we get into late tomorrow night and especially on Monday. That threat could actually shift up into Louisiana. I'm going to show you that here in just a little bit. So kind of a double-edged sword here where, yes, we've got dry air on the southern side of this system, but then we have a growing storm that brings in increasing wind flow and increasing wind shear as well with it. But yes, this storm doesn't look anything like it did a few days ago, and that's the good news. But the bad news is that strengthening is expected here, especially in the 24 hours before it makes eventual landfall on Monday. Here's a wind shear tendency. Strongest wind shear staying well to the north of the system. We do have some wind shear, though, off to the south and east of the system. You can kind of see the southwesterly wind shear, but as the storm heads in this direction, it's going to be in a very favorable area where the wind shear is actually going to be very low for a couple of days. So that will help the system gain intensity again here in the next couple of days. And you can see on the ship's forecast, believe it or not, we do have over the next 72 hours, so between now and Tuesday morning, almost a 20% chance that this system can gain up to 65 knots of intensity. It's at 50 now, so that would be 115 knots, 20% chance that it tries to get back to a high-end Category 3 storm. Lower chance, though, in the next 36 hours that it's going to try to do it. So mainly we're talking between 36 and, in this case, about 60 hours for that intensification. Here's the reason why. You see this wind shear dropping off significantly tomorrow. It's going to be in a great spot to intensify again. Sea surface temperatures climbing. It's in somewhat cooler water today, but we'll be back in warmer water tomorrow. Now, the relative humidity does drop a little bit more, so some dry air is going to still try to get into it, so it will have to fight that. But the oceanic heat content is climbing here in the 36 to 60 hour period. So a lot of good factors for strengthening, a couple of negative factors, though, and that is going to make this forecast another challenge for us here. Here's a look at the HWRF. You can kind of see it will show strengthening again here tonight. Pressure's dropping into the low 990s, a strong tropical storm. And then tomorrow dropping into the 980s. As the wind catches up, we will probably have a hurricane by tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening. And it may be a quickly strengthening hurricane up until landfall. Now, if this storm comes farther up the coast, it may not make landfall this quickly. This is 4 a.m. on Monday with a 971 millibar pressure. It's possible it could still be to the right, and that landfall could come in the afternoon Monday, giving it another 6 or even 12 hours of strengthening on top of what this model shows. I apologize, this was yesterday's model. So yeah, it's going to look a little different today. But you can see pressures have dropped off, 990s here, but then falling into, or they've risen, but now they're going to be dropping off to the low 990s here. This is going to be tomorrow morning around this time. And then we're going to see an increase in winds and a drop in pressure. And here, as we get to Sunday night, we are looking at a hurricane again during the evening hours. As it comes into the coast, it continues to see a tightening up of the wind field and a drop in pressure down to 976. Not quite as deep as what models showed yesterday and here, but still a powerful storm system and one we need to take seriously. I'm going to show you the HAFS models here as well real quickly. And you can see the HAFS-A continues to deepen the storm system up until landfall at about 12Z here on the middle Texas coastline. Here's a look at the HMON model from this morning. This one doesn't have the larger view of the Gulf and the southeast. It's just a zoomed in view, but you can see the HMON brings us back to hurricane intensity here in about 24 hours and continues to deepen the storm as it makes that right turn and makes its final approach to the Texas coast. This is early in the day, Monday, 971 millibars, category 2 hurricane. And then the storm system will weaken after landfall Monday morning, and then it continues as a much weaker system inland. And finally, the HAFSB, which has been kind of playing catch up to the other models, it's on to something here. It's showing strengthening tonight, albeit not a strong storm system, but take a look at what happens here between tomorrow afternoon and what happens on Monday morning. You can see the wind field increasing significantly and wind speeds getting up close to close to category 2 strength here as the pressure drops to 972 millibars. And finally, the Icon model, which is not my favorite model for tropical forecasting, but seems to be the one that's kind of led the charge here. Let me make this a little bit smaller for you guys to see. I know I wish it could be bigger, but welcome to working on vacation here. But you can see the storm deepens significantly here tomorrow night and still showing impacts coming up to Galveston Island and coming up to the Houston area here in the morning on Monday. At this point, probably a stronger category 1 or lower end category 2 storm, and then moving away to the northeast over the Arklatex here on Tuesday. It's faster than the other models, but it is certainly showing that intensification. Here's the European model. You can see the wind speeds here picking up quite a bit. And the strongest winds showing up here right near the middle Texas coast, wind gusts that may exceed 90 to even 100 miles per hour. And that will spread inland pretty quickly. The faster this thing does come in, the more we see that wind moving inland. Here's a closer view, though. And what I'm going to show you guys is yesterday's model. And then I'm going to show you the trend here real quick. So yesterday, the strongest winds were arriving during the morning Monday and spreading inland in the afternoon and evening hours around Corpus Christi, 70 to 80 miles per hour. That was a 6Z run. Now, fast forward, you can see the 12Z run brought everything eastward by almost 75 miles and increased our wind speeds to over 100 miles per hour. The run after it was even farther east, although not as strong, but brought the strongest winds into the Houston area with gusts of 80 to 90 miles per hour, which would be really bad for Houston. Then we saw it shift back to the left earlier this morning, still seeing wind gusts up to 80 to 90 miles per hour, especially at the coast. And then our latest model run has shifted back to the west. Classic windshield wiper here. This is why we can't trust the models, as there are still going to be some shifting in both directions. But if you take the windshield wiper, the area that keeps getting hit is Matagorda Bay here. Wind speeds up to 90 miles per hour as this moves inland. Here's a look at the European rain forecast, and you will see significant amounts of rain, 8 to maybe 10 inches of rain coming through basically the Texas Triangle, although staying east of I-35 and west of I-45, but heavy rain potential here across the middle coast of Texas and then inland to about Tyler, Texas. We may see amounts getting over 8 inches of rain. Here's a look at the severe weather threat as well. As we head into tomorrow night, we are going to see Cape values climbing here across the upper Texas coast around Galveston, and continuing to climb during the heating of the day on Monday across East Texas, as well as Western Louisiana. Take a look at this for Monday night. Extreme amounts of Cape, meaning we could see some nighttime tornadoes on Monday night across southeastern Texas. And as time wears on, that threat shifts north and east into Western Louisiana during the day on Tuesday. I do think we're going to be talking about somewhat of a tornado outbreak here, and here's a look at the parameters that are going to be in place for that. This is from pivotalweather.com, and you'll see that the tornado parameter starts to climb Monday morning, and then it's climbing even further as we get into the afternoon hours across the middle and upper coast of Texas. We'll probably see a tornado watch for the Houston area, maybe even College Station here in the afternoon on Monday. And then these amounts still are pretty high Monday evening, then drop off a little bit Tuesday morning. And then we see the threat for tornadoes climbing across Louisiana, southern Arkansas, and northeastern Texas on Tuesday, maybe even getting into Mississippi as well. Combination of the storm's remnants and an approaching trough are going to lead to an increase in low-level wind flow. And what that will do is bring us an increase in the chance for tornadoes. We'll talk more about that in tomorrow and Monday's videos. But as always, I appreciate y'all's time today. Thank you so much for watching and sharing with your friends. If you did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing as well. I hope everybody has a safe weekend. I'm traveling home today. I'll be back in the office tomorrow morning with another video. I thank you, and I give all the glory to God and my Savior, Jesus Christ, who has allowed me to live in joy and in peace, and to share the good news with everybody else that God is good no matter what happens here with the weather. Whatever challenges we face in our lives, we can turn to God and he will make everything better, because he is the Almighty God, Jehovah, Jehovah Jireh. Hope you guys have a great Saturday. We'll catch up with you again tomorrow. God bless you.